The tune that we played at the opening was called Subsequently, and I thought I'd talk a little bit about the tune and why I chose it for a first tune. First of all, it's a kind of a humorous and an affectionate dedication to my first band leader, Chico Hamilton, and it's based on a rhythm that Chico used to play in his solos a lot on drums, which was this rhythm. He'd use that and he'd fool around with it and make kind of jokes about it. The other thing was that Subsequently is a favorite word of Chico's, so that's why I called the tune Subsequently. So in the course of figuring out an opening tune, I thought that Subsequently has some nice surprises in it, and I think it's kind of dramatic. And it's the same thought process that I give to putting together a set of music, where often I'll choose the opening tune of the set first, either a set or a concert, and then maybe the last tune I'll choose second, and then I'll fill in the other maybe 3 or 4 tunes to provide some contrast. So Subsequently opened, as you noticed, with Bill Stewart playing just a drum solo, which was that rhythm that and then Steve Laspina joined with a bass, kind of a drone pattern. Which is so the whole thing is built around that D bass note there, which is. So the first phrase is right on D. It's kind of a common sounding phrase. And then the third phrase moves up a step into E. So it starts off in E, and then it does kind of a little Ornette Coleman technique there, where it goes from E to F sharp. Now you're on F sharp, with the bass still playing the D. That's kind of around F sharp there with a blue note. Again over D. So it starts off in D. It goes up to E. And ends in a sort of an F sharp tonality. And then I take that blue note there from the F sharp, which is an A natural and a G sharp, and I changed the spelling of the G sharp to an A flat, still over the D drone, and it becomes something in either A flat minor or A flat, kind of a blues scale. I guess it's just a blues scale. And that's still over D. Then it goes into E flat. And then again, that technique of taking one of the scale tones, the G natural, and moving it up a half step to E. So we started in D, it went through, it went through E major and F sharp, A flat, and ended up in E again. And then for the second little phrase, I stayed on that E tonality, again over the D drone. Again, just a really common blues phrase, and then I answered that in C. Over the D all the time. And then I played around with this D blues, the C blues scale. Back to D for the end of the tune, or the end of that phrase, so I went. And I took that A as the. I got this thing tuned wrong here. Got my fingering. started in D and ended safely in D is the whole point. So it starts with that D drone. I'll keep the guitar tuned right this time. Also, I didn't make the phrases symmetrical. I purposely moved them around a little bit in the meter so they don't all start where you'd expect them. And then this in A flat. Those are groups of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then another 2-bar drum fill here. Then we're into B minor, the relative minor. Sequence. That's kind of an interesting phrase. I think I wanted to sound a little bit more adventuresome, to get away from the blues feeling, from this feeling. So I have this against the B minor sequence. That's a B flat tonality. Let's see. It ends with that kind of funny note. And then this phrase again. Then you're into the solos. And the solo section is just this D pedal point for 16 bars, and then you have 8 bars of B minor. 6 bars actually, and then a break, a 2-bar break. And then the solos. Oh, in this solo, in order to keep with the humorous part of it, I was trying to get these effects which Don Pullen gets on the piano by kind of rolling his hand around the piano. Somebody said that it sounds like a little kid playing in a bathtub throwing water around. So it's this kind of effect. But as I got more and more into that, I was in danger of hurting my fingers. So I got this harmonizer foot pedal, and I just set it for thirds. And that way I can get these effects without injuring myself. And if I play a triad, it gets a nice effect, I think, and I believe it's in keeping with the humorous part of the tune. Pat Metheny liked that. He caught on to it right away when I played it for him on the tape. He probably invented the foot pedal. And then there's a piano solo with some breaks, and then there's a guitar solo, and then there's a drum solo. Chico would like it that way. And then we play the melody again, and the end, let's see. Drum solo, boom, boom, boom. Another drum break, and then we play this silly phrase, which is based on a tune, I forget the name of it, but whatever that is, it's based on that. And then on the recording we did, the Music Masters recording, we actually all say subsequently at the end, but I figured enough was enough, so we just entered it this way. Again, with kind of a funny note, funny dissonance on it. An F natural on top, an E natural on the bottom, and I think Steve is playing the third of the D scale. So it ends on D with this, that kind of dissonance there. So anyway, that's subsequently. That was Two's Blues, played by the two guys, Steve Laspina and me. I talk about it just a little bit, and about the shape that we tried to put on the performance to keep some interest in it. It actually features Steve generally on the gig, on the concerts, partly because he always plays it better than I do. And then I get to play some light, almost acoustic rhythm behind Steve. And I think by playing, again, almost acoustic rhythm, it gives Steve, it gives him something to react to, it gives him the harmonies, and yet it's not so loud that he has to overplay. At least that's the idea. Is that what it feels like?
Yeah, it feels great, actually. It gives me as a soloist something that bass players don't often get, and that's having you play the time and the harmony behind me, but it also sets up a real springboard.
Yeah, I try to play it, the time there, a little bit like what I imagine a drummer would do on a sock cymbal. So actually sometimes I end up holding the guitar pick this way, between the thumb and second finger, as opposed to thumb and first finger. Why don't I'll play a little bit of that for you, Steve. I keep the right hand moving, I realize, and I just put accents in where they're needed. And I can do little volume changes that way too. Play some straight time and then so I can kind of comp and play rhythm at the same time by keeping it at a low volume like this. Let's talk about, thanks, Steve. Let's talk about the fingerings too, starting with me, because what I did was, since I was going to play it in octaves with Steve, I worked out some fingerings that I thought would go, that would get a nice blend with the bass. So the line is that kind of thing. So instead of playing it down here, sorry, whatever. I worked out some fingerings just on the last four strings of the guitar, because I kind of assumed that they would be similar to what. Play the line on the bass once and let's see.
Okay.
So use an open D.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
so
yeah, I use an open D.
I see.
And then
oh yeah.
however, I imagine that it could also, I've thought about doing it this way. Just because of the way it sounds, keeping it on one string.
I do that a lot too, to keep the quality the same. You know,
right.
So I worked out a fingering similar, actually. And then do you use a harmonic there?
Yeah. I usually
knew you would.
Usually go across strings like and then.
Yeah, that's what I figured it would do. That's fun on the guitar too. It looks kind of weird, but you get to do a little dance with your hand. Right. And I think it feels better rhythmically than. But see, that's too much for me in the same position. I prefer it to. It takes a little time that way. And then what do you do from there? Let's see. With an open string. Yeah, I do it this way. But it's the same. Then what do you do for the last phrase?
The last phrase, I go up the D string.
Yeah. Yeah.
That took a long time.
Yeah, I believe it.
That's a tricky one.
I confess I leave out a note or two on that because I know Steve will have it covered.
You hope.
So I play it similarly, I guess. Sorry.
Okay.
How's it? Then there's more, right? Yeah. So in that passage, I actually mute the strings a little bit, both so they don't ring, and also so that they sound what I imagine is closer to. It's closer to the bass sound. So the point of all this is that if I'm going to play something in octaves with Steve, I try to work out some fingerings on the guitar that I imagine a bass would use, because I think it'll get a better blend with bass fiddle, and also it's fun to play it that way. It gets your hand in the action a little bit more. I think actually feel it's a little more musical than playing everything right in position. And oddly enough, I started to write this piece for a record date with Bill Evans, and I didn't get it finished in time. So I finally got it done in time to do a date with Chet Baker and Ron Carter and Steve Gadd. I think it was just a quartet. So we did it that way, and then since then it's been mostly Steve and I. I played with Mike Moore and Red Mitchell too. And the way we did it this time is that it started out with Steve kind of playing a free-sounding blues, and then I imitated that. I did a chorus of slightly outside-sounding blues, not just right with the chords, and then gradually we hooked in together and played the tune. And then I used this foot pedal. My excuse for using foot pedals is that, well, first of all, it kind of jars me into another frame of mind for a while. And the other thing is that my favorite band and my favorite musician, I think, was Duke Ellington and his orchestra. And Duke's band used all kinds of effects. They used mutes, and it was a very theatrical band. So I figured if they could do it, I can do it for a chorus or two. So, this tune has some fifths in it. So I used the fifth setting on this foot pedal. It seemed appropriate somehow. Those are either fifths or fourths, depending where you're counting from. It just seemed to suggest a kind of a far out thing, as opposed to that kind of blues, which is also great. That's the kind of blues I love to hear B.B. King play. Actually, I think that pretty well covers Two's blues for right now. That tune was called Three, and obviously it's played by three guys, Larry, Curly, and Mo here. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the idea of not having to play, talk about accompanying on the guitar. And the fact that I don't feel like I have to play the full chord all the time, because Steve's playing the root of the chord, so I can just kind of play the insides of the chord, and then Larry plays the melody in octaves, sort of on both sides, maybe both sides of the harmony. Or what were you playing then, Larry? What octave?
I was playing it 2 octaves apart.
Yeah.
Here and here.
Okay. But let's just try once through the melody, okay? And starting with Steve and me about. And what Steve's going to play the E flat root, right? And then I'll play sort of the inside of the E flat major 7th chord, and try to stay out of the way of the piano. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. That's where the each solo starts, on that E major 7th or F flat major 7th chord there. And I was trying to stay out of Steve's register there. I was trying not to play the roots of the chords unless I absolutely had to. Bass players tend to take a dim view of that sometimes, especially if your bass note disagrees with what he's playing. Also, the form of that tune is a little hard to remember, and I keep getting lost in it. So why don't we try? I'll see if I can play a solo on the chords to it. Starting at, here we go. I'll give you 3 counts, and we'll just go through with the harmonies. 1, 2, 3. actually. That tune takes some concentration, actually. If we don't play it for a while, I get lost in the form of it. And I thought maybe I'd talk about the structure of the tune just a little bit. It starts with this motive, that motive, and then the second phrase just kind of opens the intervals up a little bit. And then I keep the that motive. It goes into C flat. Then the same motive again. So it starts. And then there's this section here that keeps the same motive going. With a little tension there. How's that sound on the piano? Yeah, it sounds better on the piano. And too good, actually. And then I repeat the same idea, only down a major second with starting G minor. And then there's an elision, right, that I get back to the melody a bar earlier than you think. In a different key, we're in D now. And then I take that motive again, and then again, same motive. That's where I get lost. So the whole piece is really built around just maybe two phrases. This motive. It's seconds going down, and then one up, and then seconds down again, scale-wise, I mean. Then it opens up. This time, instead of landing on the second of the chord or the ninth, I ended up on a third, so I just kind of bent the melody a little bit. At first it was this, but second time it's this. Sounds a little bit like a Arrivederci Roma right there. So really I think that's just about all I have to say about the shape of the tune. The point I was trying to make with demonstrating with this tune was that I don't have to play the full chords all the time. In fact, we'll play the beginning again, and I'll have Larry play maybe 8 bars of the melody while Steve and I accompany him, and then I'll play the melody and Larry accompany me. Let's just do about 8 bars, Larry, starting right on the melody. Here we go. Okay. 1, 2, 3. So I'll play the melody and let's see what it sounds like with Larry playing chords. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. So I think that's really about covers pretty much the major points that we had to make with this tune. I'd like to talk about the ballad that Larry and I play together, just a duo. Maybe talk about duo playing and what that involves. It's interesting to me that no matter how much you talk about playing music together, it seems that there's some people you can play with and that others are really difficult. Larry is really easy to play duos with because he listens. That's the reason. This tune, All Across the City, I wrote in about 1965, and I actually wrote it for a record date with Jimmy Rainey and Zoot Sims, O.C. Johnson, and Steve Swallow on bass. And it was a tone poem about New York City. When I think New York was probably a little more innocent city in those days. If I wrote it now, I'd have to have car alarms and screams in it, probably. Anyway, let's play a little bit of the very beginning. We do a kind of an abstract intro just to get maybe some city sounds, whatever occurred. Just play the beginning.
Okay.
Just whatever you
Okay.
feel. So anyway, that can go almost any direction it wants to. Sometimes if Larry has an extra keyboard, you do some funny settings on that. And then sometimes play some of that stuff on the inside of the piano too.
Oh, yeah?
We started out that way.
Okay.
The idea is just to kind of an abstract introduction that would suggest maybe, I don't know, dawn in the city. All right, that's nice. Nice. Yeah. So, right, that's how the
Always
thing.
carry a pick, piano players.
Let's carry piano player, guitar players. I thought I'd talk about the shape of the tune also. It's actually in C major finally. It finally gets to C, but it starts on D minor with the ninth in the melody. That E, sometimes with a C sharp, a large seventh there, down to a minor seventh, and then down to C minor, F7, E7, and then the second phrase is basically the same melody, except the setting is at A minor seventh this time. So it starts this way, and the second phrase is just a little higher note there. And then it gets into this part that's a little hard to play over again. F sharp minor to B seventh to B flat seventh with a flat nine to E half diminished seventh to E minor 11th to A seventh to A flat seventh with a flat nine to D half diminished seventh, then D minor 11th, C sharp half diminished seventh, F sharp seventh to B. So you started in D minor, now you're in B, so now what are you going to do? And I have to get back to the A seventh, so I went from a B major seventh to a B flat 11th chord, and then to an A seventh with a flat fifth. And now I'm back ready for the D minor again. C minor, F7, E7, and now the melody starts to stretch out a little bit. Goes up to a C. F, B7 flat ninth, B flat ninth. Now we get up to the highest note of the melody. So there's kind of a payoff there. You start off down here on the E. A little bit higher up to a B. Up to a B again. Up to the E, from the D sharp to the E. There's a little higher note. To a D, and now it winds back down again. Oh, sorry, I'm ending up in D flat there. Let me try that again. Starting on the F chord. Up to a D natural, which is the highest note of the tune. Thanks, Larry. Yeah, that's what I needed. Okay, so thanks. Now we've ended in D flat. We have a D flat major seventh. So I put an extension on the tune rather than going directly back to D minor. Let's play from this D flat with the extension, okay?
Okay.
See? D flat, C minor 11, B with a flat fifth, then B minor 11th. I just felt that it needed an extension there to get back to D minor comfortably. And I'd also like to talk about accompanying the piano on the guitar. So let's start with, you want to play your chorus, Larry,
Okay.
and I'll play some chords and try to stay out of your way.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. When I'm playing behind Larry, just without the bass, I feel free to use those bass notes that I stayed away from when Steve was playing. So I use a little fuller chords. So are you aware of the, I'm sure you are, of what the guitar is doing there?
Yeah, I try to stay aware of that, and in the same way you say, trying to stay out of my way, I'm trying to stay out of your way
Yeah.
too. what immediately comes to mind are the famous records that you made with Bill Evans. And if you really listen to that, in fact, in most stereos, you can use the balance knob, and you can find that when you isolate Bill Evans when he's soloing, his left hand he's not using his left hand at all. So because Jim can cover all that, the bass and everything. And if you play too much, it's just going to be mud.
Yeah.
So
That's the reason I hired Larry, because he listens.
well, I'm
like
still learning that lesson, but
there's large sections, as you pointed out, where on those records with Bill, where he doesn't play any left hand at all for quite a while. Like on Funny Valentine, I think, for the whole first chorus.
It took me a long time to realize that.
Yeah.
Too. His sound is so big anyway. But
play a little bit. Let me play the melody. I mean the improvising part from the beginning.
Okay.
And you accompany me. 2, 3, 4. I thought I'd say something about my weird fingering patterns here. Some classical guitar player, whose name I've actually forgotten, so I don't have to say he'll remain nameless, but he came to watch me play one night, and he kind of liked the music that he heard, but he said about my playing, he said, not very disciplined. And what I imagine is that watching my left hand, it must look like a can of worms to him, because I rarely play anything that's straight across the fingerboard like that. A lot of times I'll play things that are up and down the neck. John Scofield does that a lot as well. Partly because I like the quality of the sound. I like to keep the quality of the sound the same. And to me, the quality of this G and this G and that G and that G each one is a little different from the other. So a lot of times I'll play things that really look kind of horrible as far as efficiency goes, but it's just something that I like to do, and I'm comfortable with it now. Probably more comfortable than I am playing across the fingerboard. The other thing that I do quite a bit, actually maybe too much, is that I don't get the right hand involved as much as a lot of players. So where a phrase maybe like this, I might play it like. So I set the string in motion with the right hand, and then I do a lot of it with the left hand in different kinds of slurs. This kind of slur, that kind of slur, and then just moving the same finger sometimes. So I guess the main points to be made in all of this have to do with the fact that two players playing together have to listen really hard to one another. Some people listen better than others. Larry listens better than almost anybody else. And the other thing I talked about was the shape of the melody, how it has nice arrival points and payoff points, I think. And I think that's why it makes it a good melody. I feel it's a good melody. And the other stuff had to do with various technical things I do or do not do with my right hand. And I think that pretty well covers this too. what I did with this tune was I made up a little introduction, which is this. And I use that motive on and off throughout the tune, and I also use it as a coda. And in between, I have this nice melody weaving its way around. So the rhythm of the coda, of the introduction and the coda, is taken from the tune. The tune is this. So from that rhythm, I got the introduction, which is this. I repeated the introduction, and I tried to get a little different texture. The first time I played it, sort of a full amplified sound. And then I played it down at the bridge. Introduction figure again. Well, so far we've been through, let's see, the introduction started in G, then it went directly to E flat, so the root of the G chord became the third of the E flat major seventh chord, and that's where the melody starts. Then it goes down to C major, through E flat, E minor, A7, to D. So we started in E flat and ended up in D. My wife writes tunes like that for some reason. She's fearless that way. She doesn't know you have to play it on the guitar later. And from the D major part, it goes directly to B flat major. So this tune starts in E flat. C. Now we're in D major. Can't really call them modulations. They're just different tone centers, I think. It doesn't make a proper modulation. Then it goes directly to B flat major. And then it starts to unwind a little bit. Stays in B flat for a while. Up in B flat through G minor. Back to the top, which is in E flat. So let's see, so far we have E flat, C major, D flat, D major, and then directly into B flat, and it ends in B flat, and at the very end it makes a B flat dominant 7, then back to the top in E flat. So there's a lot to remember there. Sometimes I forget. And then I have a coda, which, let's see. This time I do something similar to the introduction. I go from what's been in B flat. I take that F and make it the third of a D flat chord. And it touches on A major for a minute. And then back to D flat. So my friend John Cerullo was describing a tambourine solo that he heard Airto Marrero play, marvelous Brazilian percussionist. And John said that the tambourine solo, just on the tambourine, went on for about 10 minutes, and that it was really electrifying. It might have been like kind of the high point of the set. And that kind of it draws a line under some feelings that I have about music, which is that even though music, especially jazz music, is often presented in terms of scales and arpeggios and fingerings and how fast can you play G Lydian, I've heard music played on pop bottles and tambourines that really communicates. And it seems to me that it really is about, it has to do with one human being communicating something to other human beings and doing it in a clear way, clear and in a way that keeps the other person's attention. And all these things that we've done today are involved in that. It has to do with communicating clearly, the same as other art forms do, the same as painting does, the same as writing does. It's a matter of getting somebody's attention and keeping their attention and presenting something to them, and maybe taking this person someplace where he hasn't been before, maybe someplace where the two of you have never been. Often in planning a set of music, we'll start with something kind of accessible, maybe just a blues or something that everybody or a pop tune or a Gershwin tune. But in the course of the set, we can get really abstract. And if we've won the audience over and have them on our sides, we can take them pretty much any place we want to, where you can play just about the goofiest thing you want, as long as it's still, you have the audience on your side, and you're presenting what you're doing in a clear way. You can take people places, unimaginable places, and then sometimes you can just lose an audience either by overplaying. I think that space in music is really important for keeping people's attention, because it gives the listener a second to get into what you're playing, to penetrate the music for a second and think about it, and maybe keep it organized in their mental computer, in the listener's mental computer. Often a whole wall of notes or chords can be off-putting. It almost says stay away, whereas just a second or two of rest will let the listener get in to the music. So I think about all those things when I'm preparing a set of music. I think about that when I'm writing a tune, and I've made some analogies in the past to the fact that the first phrase of a solo, of an improvised solo, is similar to maybe the first line of a short story or the first image that one sees of a painting. Like, again, that solo of Charlie Christian's on that blues. That's such a great opening phrase. I heard that, the first time I heard that, I think I was 13 or 14 years old, and I still remember it. And each time I hear that record, I wonder what the next phrase is going to be, even though I've heard it thousands of times, I guess. Whoops. Then the next one is this. so on. And then there's a beautiful Lester Young solo on You're Driving Me Crazy, which I still remember that one too. And again, I heard that when I guess I was 16 or 17, and the solo was so clear and melodic and so friendly sounding that it stayed with me all this time. Another thing I'd like to talk about just briefly here is the rhythm playing that some of which I did behind Steve. We played a blues in G minor, but just to demonstrate this this particular section, I'd like to just play a regular blues in G major. And what this amounts to is a harmonized bass line. Almost any notes that kind of thing. And all I'm playing for rhythm, for the voicing, is 3 notes, usually the root, the 7th, and maybe some kind of 3rd. So it involves those 3 strings, the 6th string, the 4th string, and the 3rd string, and occasionally the 5th string. And I'm just about dragging the 3rd finger along. It doesn't really matter what some of the notes are as long as the bass line is clear. And you can do that in really complex songs as well, but it works out great in a blues, I think. That's a little different from that more percussive rhythm that I was playing behind Steve. But this is the kind of rhythm I'm talking about now is basically a harmonized bass line with the root, 3rd and 7th, and it kind of what Freddie Green sounded like to me. He sounded as though he just played very simple chords like that. And he didn't move them that much, I guess.